we are doing part 2 now of this 3-part series of the ETs. So you just heard in our last segment my channeling. I hope you thought that was interesting. Now we're going to start talking about the topic, and we might address some of the channeling that came through. All right, enjoy. Okay, so we're just talking to ourselves right now, to each other. We're not talking to you guys on a podcast-like level, so bear with us or whatever. Sometimes we just figure it's interesting, and we're having an interesting conversation right now. So
yeah,
back to us. We're talking about ETs.
We're talking about ETs and the whole idea of hierarchy. But what I felt, because I was channeling this being, is a lot of honor to even speak with her, and a lot of respect.
Because I think it's just like us, even as children, looking up at the upperclassmen. Like, we think that they're better than us, but in actuality, it's just we're next to each other because they just happen to be ahead in a time wise, but in their sense, I feel like it's just knowledge wise, like a different level of awareness, and it's just a different space. So they're not actually higher than, the college kid is not higher than the kindergarten, really, because they were once that kindergartner and they had that level of understanding. It's just the kindergartner is looking up to this college like, oh my gosh, it's so much, more authority because they know more and they're just bigger, and they're, you think that they are. It's like a strange illusion. Yeah. Like, kids are like, oh, I want to be like you always see little kids trying to act like the older ones.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. They're so cool.
It's so it's like that same idea, I think. Like, so when we're talking about this channeling, right? So about like the captains, and I find that interesting because like anytime I hear about like channelings going up to the spaceships and things, or they bring us there, it's oftentimes directly conversing with, not always, but a lot of times with a conversing person or access point is a captain of that particular ship or whatnot, so, or admiral or whatever they want to label it in our terms. It's just trying to give us that sense of what we might align with so we can understand it, is more like and I think that's how they always do it, whether it's like our guides or ETs or angels or whatever. They do it the best way they can to show us what we can understand and put together. Like our vision of what an angel is like very much human, but with wings, but in actuality that's not them, really. Not, you don't really see that. That's not
Wonder
them.
where they come in as that. Maybe it was the idea that if it's a person and it's flying, one, they probably come through as people so that not to scare us.
Right.
And I doubt they have wings. Maybe it's the human mind that was like, well, they're in the air. There has to be a way to be in the air. They probably have wings.
Right. And also just, I've seen where other people say, well, another theory is that sometimes they have a certain aura and it shows, and it might show like, how a lot of things are in the end toroidal in shape. Not if you really look at the dimensionality of things, it shows up more toroidal. So if you imagine like a toroidal shape behind or around this being, it might seem like a wing.
Yeah. Oh, right? Snap. Yes.
So that to me is more the logical aspect of it. But again, I don't know. I haven't seen or experienced one in that way myself. To me, when I experience anything, it's a knowing. Or if I see things, again, I feel like it's just a representation of what is needed to be seen, not actuality. Because our human senses, our vision is limited for what it has experienced on this, what we do here, the way we see things. I mean, even on here, this planet, other animals have different ways to see things than we do, but we only see it in the way we see it, so it goes with that.
Well, even when I channel, and it is when I channel ETs especially, they
Hmm.
constantly need to find words to explain things to us
Yeah.
as
Some do
because
better than others,
yeah,
by the way.
more than others. But because we are so limited in our understanding of things, not that it's bad, it's just that's how we are.
Hmm.
And we're very much black and white and very 3D. So they were trying to explain the other day to this amazing client, that the DNA, her DNA, part of her DNA was used because there's this trend. And I wonder if it also has to do because I personally know nothing about DNA, right? So they're trying to use words that I would also know that I could be able to, you know, relate to the other person. So they used her strand of DNA because it was so rare. And what the easiest way to explain what was so rare about it is that she is able to, if she wants to, even now in this reincarnation, she's able to teleport.
Mm-hmm.
But again, the conscious mind puts locks on it.
Hmm.
So they've used her strand of DNA, they extracted it, and they've used it to create other, I guess they're hybrid beings would be,
Mm.
right? Because it's a human DNA. So to create over like 100, it's in an over 100 other beings that are somewhere. I don't know.
Hmm. Right, yeah.
But that was very interesting because
Well, that's a whole other topic. I could
yeah,
totally dive in on the DNA aspect. DNA, like how, that we actually have 12 strands, not two. you know.
and I don't
um,
know how long ago you listened to Dolores Cannon's book, the first one, Convoluted Universe. It's either, I think, yeah, it's in Convoluted One,
okay.
where she talks about those sessions she did was in the 80s.
Hmm.
And she talks about with the subconscious that the person that's sitting there or laying there in hypnosis, that this person was upgraded to the 12 strands of DNA, and that I guess they started the upgrade in the 80s, or I don't know if it was started earlier, and they said that everyone is being upgraded.
Right. I mean, it kind of shows in like the sessions, like for the fact that with her prior to all this, clients are always in the amnesia state for the most part, right? The somnambulistic state. And most of them just don't remember their sessions at all. But now we can, and it kind of throws a wrench in it because we don't know how to deal with it very well. Well, at least sometimes. But I don't know. I just see it. It shows. It shows. There was something that you brought up that I'm trying to get back. That was kind of interesting. I'm afraid I lost it. Um, ETs. Ah, forget it. Never mind. Go ahead.
DNA strands,
It was right in the beginning
teleporting.
of that. Well, no, it's before that. But the teleporting, yeah, I know people can teleport. I believe that. I totally believe that. um, but it's rare for sure because people just wait. It's some maybe it has to do some. Was it the DNA? Um, I don't know if this was it, but there was a DNA aspect where, a lot of our expression is in our DNA. That is, we see it handed down genetically in how we present ourselves and physically as well as personality and our the collective or yeah the collective like lessons and things that's also in our DNA. That it's like it's kind of the access point, like the memory of what this body will need to remember to experience and things that's also like recorded in there. um it might express as a physical ailment, like where in the science world they kind of focus on the physical. Once they start focusing on beyond the physical with regards to the DNA, it'll be very interesting the patterns they'll see.
That's, I think DNA is an interesting topic in general. I just don't know enough of it about it. I
Yeah.
was so bad at biology.
I thought it was fascinating when I was learning it, but I didn't get too deep.
I even took anatomy. I remember I took an anatomy class. The only thing I remember from that is my blue eyes is a recessive gene.
Yes.
That's about it. That's all I can tell you.
Well, the only thing I might know as rumor with that is that that's because you've been hybridized by a certain type of ET way back in your ancestral line because it's very specific.
Interesting. But a lot of like Norwegian, more like North people have
hmm
blue eyes.
hmm And the green
Interesting.
is even more interesting because I think that's even, is it green more rare or blue? Hmm.
I would think green is more rare.
I think green is more rare. Well, anyway.
And I mean, there's also blood types. Like I'm a recessive. Is it not recessive?
Traits?
Negative? What is it?
R
RH negative. There's
RH, yeah,
I'm
there we
RH negative.
go.
That's also another thing, right? There's
Yep.
RH positive, RH negative. There's so many interesting different things.
Yeah.
But let's get back to ETs.
Yeah, ETs. So we talked about channeling them. Um, and you said that you don't really get names, just like I don't get names. And I feel like that's because as channelers individually, we are very much the filter both ways in a sense when it comes to us connecting with our whatever we're channeling, whether it's ETs or not. For me, I don't do much ETs. I do occasionally, but I basically connect with whenever, whoever, whatever that's appropriate in the moment. So, but personally, even for humans, I don't tend to go for names either because in real life, just to be honest, I'm being honest here, I'm not very good at names, but I also feel like on a certain level internally, I don't value the names themselves so much as the energy of the person. So that's probably partially why I don't do good with names because I don't let myself make it that important. But obviously it's useful to identify like an individual with each other kind of thing. But I think it's that's very much the similar feeling on the other side. It's like they don't really there's no care about names on that side. They just know you're you and he's him, or there's not actually it's not he
Yeah,
her.
they a lot of the
You
times they
know,
say it's frequency.
yeah,
A lot of
exactly. So they often laugh at us. In fact, whenever I try to ask them for a name, they usually laugh. They usually laugh and they're like, well, try to give an explanation as to why not, or they'll come up with something that again, to me, it's not a big deal, and I don't know if it aligns well enough. It's for that person, so if it comes out as a name, it's for that person because the same thing. It's just like, what do you feel more comfortable with? But yeah, I'll see like a passed on person, and it'll be like, I got this like grandmother energy. You'll hear that by psychics a lot, right? You'll hear, they'll say, oh, it feels like a mother or a father or a grandmother or something like that. And again, on the other side, it's not so much the names. Which why I find it fascinating with those channelers that do have a name like Abraham or
Mhm.
Bashar or something like that. But I think
I think these are just they come up with names for us. I don't think it's their actual
exactly.
name.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not an individual either. It's like a
Yeah.
collective of them. Whoever comes through, and they'll even say it that way. But it's easier to say Bashar or Abraham or whatever to be like, oh, that's where it's coming from. But in real essence, they're all coming from the same space. It's just going through different filters, and the filters are the channeler. I feel
Hmm.
like
Yeah. And this is how it feels to me. So, because they don't talk with words, not all of them do. right? It's mostly
They
to
use our
level.
vocabulary
They
usually.
use our vocabulary, but the way I feel how they communicate between each other. So
Mm-hmm.
this is the easiest way I can explain how they know. Let's say you and I are out there, we're ETs, and we're discussing someone we know, as an example. Right?
Mm-hmm.
We don't, first of all, we don't talk, right?
Yeah.
It's a thought process. So kind of, I guess we can look at it as just thinking, and you get my thinking and I get your thinking back. But also it is, as I'm talking about a third person, I will relay their energy, how their
Mm,
energy feels. And
mm,
you will understand because you feel this person's or this being's energy the same way.
right.
So we would
Yeah.
not be like, oh, that girl Sarah, you know.
It's so
No.
inefficient, this mouth that we have. I think that's a lot of times that they'll say it that way too. Like, oh, it's too slow to like bring that idea out to you because we're talking and you have to go from the thought to this to the brain to the mouth to the there's so many levels before the actual
Yeah.
and then it goes into the other person's ear and then it goes through the head and you have to comprehend. It gets it's very slow, which
I
is
actually had an interesting thing happen in one of my channeling sessions yesterday, where the client afterwards said, because as a conscious mind, I don't feel these. I just let them talk, and they say whatever it is. Right? They
mm,
always ask for questions.
mm-hmm,
And after the channeling, this woman, very nice woman, she's like, Sophia, oh my God, I would think of a question, I didn't voice it, and they would start responding.
yeah,
That's why if you listen to the recording, she's like, sometimes there's silence, and all I'm saying is, okay, is
yeah.
because I thought the question, they already answered it, and they're like, and
That
I'm
happened
lost
to
before.
me with you a few channels ago, actually, for the podcast. I was just thinking like it was 3 or 4 questions in my head that I was like, maybe I should ask this. And they just say it, and through you saying it. And I'm like, okay, that my work is so easy.
Fabulous. Like, and I don't even recognize
It
it
just
because
happened.
they don't tell me.
Why do you need to
But
know?
that's
It's for the other person, remember?
so back to the ETs. Tell
Yes.
me what kind of ETs you have had in your lineage.
And mine, oh yes, I do know my lineage.
Let's just explain what we mean by that. Meaning what
Heritage.
you've been before, heritage,
Yeah.
what you've been before.
Yeah. So, I started through source. I was Pleiadian. If there's a flow of things, there's no time, right? So we won't go by. I
Yeah.
understand that, but there's a
You
flow.
still
So
probably are Pleiadian.
yeah, exactly. If they're yeah, whatever. um, I was Pleiadian for many iterations, and they have like a long lifespan compared to us. So I think it's like our version of 800 years or something. I don't know. But as Pleiadians, you can have many careers, so to speak, or focuses. And they showed me I was a technician. I remember I was, I couldn't see my body because I was in outer, I'll just say clothing or outfit or something, but it's not really, it's just I think we find out eventually that it's some sort of thing that helps. I can't remember the details, but there's a reason why there's this outer covering, and it's not like
Mm-hmm.
the way we would wear an outfit.
Mm-hmm.
But anywho, I had gone to this planet, and it was really dark. Maybe it was a moon. It was small. It's dark. Everything's like, if you know any of the stones like obsidian or a darker hematite or something like that, it's kind of that kind of feel. More obsidian. It's really dark, really black, and very rocky everywhere. And I landed there, and there's nobody there, but there's like a facility nearby that was deserted. And then there's this huge spire, and the spire on was just there. I went and I reached in my pocket or whatever thing I was holding stuff. I'm basically there to replace a battery. That's all I was really doing. And the battery was crystals. I put these crystals, I took out some crystals and or whatever debris was there. I think it just, disintegrated or something. And I replaced it with new batteries. And it turns on, and I can just sense that it was working. I don't
Hmm.
know what exactly and how. I wasn't the engineer of it. I just knew it was working properly. And it's some sort of, I don't know the right word, but I guess for our knowledge, it's kind of like a repeater of like an antenna kind of thing. You're sending messages through it, in
Signals.
a sense, signals through it, kind of like that. Um, to the best of my knowledge. And then they switched me to seeing a later, or not later, I don't know, another aspect of my life there as a healer. And I would hear prayers, basically. And there was this woman who just lost her offspring to birth, and it was grieving terribly, and it was praying to release this grief. And I show up, and all I did was reach out and touched her, and I took in that feeling, emotion, whatever you want to call it, and it didn't bother me. It was my job, my skill. I just knew how to transmute it, and I just took it away from her. And I could just feel and sense in her face, in her demeanor, that she was like, "Ah, thank you." So much relief. Like that kind of thing. I'm like, oh, that's so cool. And then this was actually my first regression in QHHT for myself. And I got to like come out of it. I'm like, oh, that's why I like computers. And that's why I like to be like that in between person for people when, they're having problems and things like, oh, because some of my friends would say, hey, you'd be a good counselor or something. I'm like, yeah,
Mediator. We need
mediator,
mediators.
mediators.
They make more money. Just letting you know.
um,
They make more money.
yeah, um, so it just really felt like an affirmation of, oh, that's where I kind of get it. That's part of me. That's internally who I am, sovereignly, kind of thing. And then
So what else
from
have you?
there,
Mm-hmm.
from there, I think I've been traveling for a while, and I'm always looking for different things. I'm very curious. And from what I heard, Source likes that I'm curious. And in fact, I think Source likes everyone who are curious. That's just a trait that
Source likes everyone, period.
it's true. It's true. But when they made a note about that, it's like maybe it's an affirmation I needed to hear, or
Yeah.
just to
We
say
should
that.
all hear it. Be curious in your
Yeah,
life.
to be curious. And so anyway, an opportunity came up. It's kind of like you go to like college, and there's like a bulletin board. It's like, oh, this project's happening. This, study needs a helper. And things like that. So I saw something. Oh, like I'll volunteer for that one. And,
Don't do that anymore, girl.
and
Anyway.
I'm like, it's like a very special study, but it only requires one person or one soul, whatever, one volunteer for this particular interesting collaborative with Earth Gaia. And I'm like, okay, I don't know what this is about, but I'll do it. Sign me up. But it goes through like a whole process of selection to pick a person, kind of thing, because it's just one soul. Anyway, I got selected. I'm like, yay! And then so, okay, but you can't just go straight there. We need you to go to Arcturus first. You got to be Arcturian. You got to be trained. The elder there will know what to do. So I go there, and in that society that I was in is like you get birthed by your birth parents. It feels like it's parents, but they take you immediately to go do what you do. And I was going to a special school, I guess. And in the special school, I had schoolmates that were selected for being a support. 7 of them were supposed to support my whatever thing I'm doing. And it took one lifetime, and then the next lifetime, I had one, I called him father, but he wasn't a father. He was the main elder person, and he was ancient as well. He was able to expand his lifespan in his life. So he was actually in both lifetimes for me. And so he helped me train in the beginning, and then he helped me train in the second part. And then, from what I think I remember, so Gaia, and this was so cool. I gotta share it this way. It's the QHHT experience for me. I get to, I remember I got into a space. It seemed like a dark space. Like people always complain about, oh, I just see black, but it wasn't black. I knew it wasn't black. It was really gray, but everything is gray. I didn't see or feel. I just exist in this gray thing. And it turns out it was like a collaboration of different aspects from deep within Gaia, like different parts of her put together, and was put into a package basically to send to Arcturus to merge with my Pleiadian soul, well, Arcturian at that time, but it had to merge in order to allow Gaia a certain perspective that it didn't have before. So it needed, I still don't know the details of why and how, but it needed a whole, I mean, it needed a whole lifetime and a half to get to this point where they're like, okay, let's do this. Let's get this done because we got the package. And the thing is, I was that package. So I get to see from that package. I remembered thinking, I'm going, they're sending for me. And oh, I'm there. I see this gigantic head. Well, not really see, but feel this gigantic head looking at me. And it turns out it was the elder. And I can remember how it looks like. It's really tall, more neutral colored, maybe tending towards a little gray, but more neutral, more like browns and beige. Anyway, so they were doing this process, and all my support, they represent the 7 chakras, each one of them, and they're there to support me in multiple ways. And in that process, they did the merge. It was successful, but now I'm in this body and I'm like, I feel terrible. Like, is something wrong? Is something wrong? Is something wrong? I don't think I can make it. And it turns out I was dying. It worked, but I was dying, and I was suffering in the body because it was not working well, even with all their plans and everything. In fact, it was meant to be a lesson for the Turans at that time because they are known galactically as the experts, almost specializing in Pleiadians are kind of known for like the upper chakras. They're very supportive, helping people, kind of thing. But the Pleiadians kind of lost their root chakra. In fact, they didn't have a planet anymore at some point to have home because they're all over the place. They don't need to have that grounding. But on Arcturus, it's the other way around. Like every chakra is strong, and they know how to manipulate, and they're like known as like the genetic like manipulators in a good way. They know how to transmute, and just known for their intellect or wisdom with that. And they're very, systematic and everything. Anyway, they got to the point where I think they know that, and they needed to become a bit more modest. So they already knew that this is going to work perfectly fine. And it didn't. So it showed them that, hey, you can't control things the way you think you can. You can't see things this certain way. So anyway, we went with plan B. We were supposed to have another lifetime or two to do more training after that, after the merge. But instead, they're like, no, she can't reincarnate in a Arcturian body anymore. So she's going to go straight to Earth. And you guys are going to go with her. But you're going to do separate things. You're just going to learn in a different way. You're going to learn while you're there. And I don't know what they're training for after, because they already did the merge. So it's like some other things. So there was another plan to this project that I'm not aware of. And so they that's what they did. we all come here, and first year of QHHT is the year that they said, okay, it's time for you all to meet up again, to connect. You don't have to do anything fancy. It's not like, oh, now you're this dynamic project duo, like group that needs to like save the world. No, no, no. It's not like that type of level, like some sci-fi movie. But we're connecting to, because this is my last lifetime here. So yay! Whoo, I'm graduating, senior year. Whoop, whoop.
Don't mess it
So
up, girl.
I just want to party. No. But anyway, we're all meeting up because this is the last opportunity to connect, to be together. So the way that they show me I was meeting them is that, did you know that the trademark for, or the logo for the Subaru cars, do you know what that is?
S? Isn't it an S?
No, that's Suzuki.
Oh.
It's the Seven Sisters, which is the Palladians. That's what's known as the Palladians. It has 6 stars showing on their logo, but the 7th star is invisible. It's just not seen. It goes with the lore and everything. Um, um, so I would see Subarus everywhere for a while. I mean, they made it super known because at that time my intuitive skills were weak, right? So they're like, let's make sure she sees this. So I'd see them everywhere on the road and stuff, but now I'll park into a parking lot. At first it'd be like normal, other cars and stuff, and then I'll go there, I do my stuff errand, and I'll come back out, and I'll be like, there's my car, and then every other car is Palladius. Every other car is Subarus. Now I'm gonna say Suzuki.
I have
They're
to
all
tell you,
Subarus.
my late father loved Subarus.
Oh,
Like,
really? I
was
personally don't. I'm nothing against them, but I just never cared for it. It didn't.
neither have
So
I.
it's just showing that it was not important to me. So it's more emphasis too. Like, it's just Subarus, whatever. But it's like there's everywhere. It got to a point where there was one parking lot that had uh, 8 of them, and me, my car's not. So it's like 8 of them, and I'm like, duh. It's like everywhere I go, and then that, I'm like, and I actually met them. I met the ones that I was meant to meet, and then it stopped. Now I just like randomly see one, and like every other time, it doesn't bother me at all. It doesn't seem like a sink. So
But have you met the people?
yeah,
Oh, okay,
we're
good.
friends. We're all friends. And that's all, and we're all like on some level aligned to this work, the metaphysical world, like the mysteries, like, some of them are healers. There's a Reiki specialist, and yeah. So it's interesting.